hopefully everything goes smoothly in our awesome new setup. I can tell my computer's working really hard. I just heard its fans start churning like, I think I can. We had a lot that we're trying to do all at once. Hey, you beautiful people. For those of you watching in replay, thank you so much for doing so. Make sure you head over to the Facebook page where comments will continue to be open throughout all time. And so if you've got questions as you're watching this in replay, especially if you're watching this over at the YouTubes, come on over to Facebook, because that's where we keep the conversation going, because nobody needs to be chasing comments in 20 different places. And I know YouTube and Facebook are just 2 different places, but I'm going to call them 20 different places because they might as well be for how crazy making it can be to chase comments all over the internet. Nobody has time. So how are you beautiful people? It's Friday. It's 2:30 Pacific. I am pulling this up on a secondary screen because we are doing some really cool shit today with technology that is a little extra, but I'm excited because this is going to be super fun. We have an amazing guest, Merel Kriegsman, who is absolutely brilliant. She is a copy goddess. And she's someone that when I watch the way she writes, I am always pulled in. And I thought, wow, this would be fantastic to share with y'all. When she reached out and said we should do something cool together, I was like, absolutely, we should, and we will. And now we are. So I'm super excited to have her on today to basically go through some of y'all's websites and tell you what's working and what could be stronger in terms of your web copy. And we've chosen sites that have some really great teaching moments for everyone, hopefully, so that even if we didn't pick your website, we picked websites that have the types of problems that are the most commonly out there, or maybe not even problems. They're doing things really great, and you being able to see this walkthrough on screen, if technology holds up for us, is going to allow you to feel more confident about what you have on your website. And maybe it's just tiny little tweaks that can make a big difference in your web presence. And as of course we talk about in self-management for actors, your website is your 24/7 brand manager. That's the billboard they never take down from the side of the road. So even if you're not highly interactive with your website, even if you aren't terribly out there on social media, which it may not be on brand for you to do so, totally fine. It is, however, important that you're Googleable and that you have a place where we can land when we want to know more about you. Yeah, there's IMDb. Yeah, there's Actors Access. Yeah, there's casting networks. Sure. And you don't necessarily have to be all the places that I just listed also. Well, yeah, you do. You have to be in those 3. But you don't have to be in all the other places because there are a lot. And the buyers are not actually out there looking for more places to find actors. However, when we Google you and we land on you, we want to be able to very quickly, efficiently get you. So we're going to go through some websites today that do a really good job of that and some that could do a better job of that. And y'all are so amazing for having submitted your websites for us to review. And now we're going to start doing that. But first, let me bring on the lovely Merel Kriegsman. And she is going to talk a little bit about some of the things that are yeses and nos, if there is such a thing as far as a universal for all creatives websites. Are there any hard and fast rules that you think everybody needs to be prepared to know going in, or is it case by case every single time?
Was that a question to me?
Little bit, yeah.
Gosh, so yeah, there are some rules that are for everyone. Like even if you're multi-passionate and even if you have like multiple things going on, I think a great place to start is looking at who do you want on your website and what do you want these people to feel, what do you want them to learn about you, and what do you want them to do. So keep one person in mind. And if you're smart, then you will want to target the agents and the casting directors that you want you to hire. So I think that's a really great place to start. Are you still there, Bonnie?
I sure am, sweetheart. I am going to be cropping my face out of the screen, but I will still be here. I'm able to see everything and hear everything, hopefully. But I think I'm going to hand everything over to you to start going through some of these sites. And if you'll just basically tell me where you need me to go next, we'll be able to do a through. Yeah.
Yeah, I think where we can start is by perhaps just talking a little bit about how important it is to choose one color and to really stand behind that, like, one thing that you do really well, even though it might feel counterintuitive. Like, we, as creatives, we all want to have the possibility to do everything and be everything, but it's really not what's going to get you hired. There were a couple of websites that were submitted that did a great job just giving one solid branded image of who they are, what they do, and what they should be hired for. So basically spoon feeding the people that are in the position to hire you, not letting them wander around and try and make stuff up about you or what you could be good at, but actually telling them. So taking control there is of massive importance. And we can just have a look perhaps at a website or two that did a fantastic job. And the one I'd like to hop over to is Katherine Campion's website. So here you can see that everything on this page is in alignment. It's like there is no doubt about what she should be hired to do, like what the kind of roles. It's the, you know, from like the higher neckline to the short hair to the background, like it all makes sense. So this is really strong. There is no confusion here. And that's basically, you know, if we talk about rules that apply to everyone, is eliminate anything that can cause confusion. Try and take away as much guessing work as possible. Don't expect agents or casting directors to try and imagine you, could you be good in this role, could you be good in that role, but actually making that decision for them. Because you want to like step into their shoes for a moment. They are probably going to go through so many websites and so many files. And unless it speaks to them directly, you've lost them. So this is where you can take, you know, so much charge. Please do, people. So let's scroll down here a bit. Yeah, so her about. This is a really great example. So Katherine doesn't say like, hey, I started, you know, with like, at first I had dancing classes at age 11, and then I took up the flute, and then I decided to go into acting. It's like a really kind of simple formula that she uses, and it works incredibly well. And it takes away anything that isn't really relevant to the people you want, you know, that you want to engage to. So she starts with that first paragraph. She says, these are basically my favorite roles. And she lists a couple of highlights. Fantastic. The second paragraph is about where she started, how she got started. Like, you see that she says something about being a cellist and a keyboardist and a vocalist. I'm sure that's very on brand in this case, but that's basically what you want to keep in mind. There are things on brand. Am I right, Bonnie? Not sure you can hear me. That's okay. So, and the last paragraph is all about what she is doing right now. So all the stuff that is recent that you might find your ass doing. So this is what I can totally recommend you use as kind of like a simple formula to avoid adding in all those details that are frankly not relevant. So let's scroll down a little bit more. Is that working? No. Not sure that works. I can't see anything, but that's okay. We can just keep talking. So let me just go over to my notes here.
I'm right now at her demo reel on the screen. If you're able
to. Okay, good.
Yeah, do you need me to scroll lower than that?
I'll go over to your website myself because I haven't seen the screen,
okay.
So that's what we have to figure out. Yeah, so her demo reel, again, it's on brand. It basically affirms what, or how you say that, like basically says like, it connects to how she presents herself at the top of the page, which is so vital. Like you want to use pictures that correspond what you have in your reels that make sense with your log line. It all has to be like one clear picture that you create. So scrolling down, then very clearly she has like her commercial stuff, her promo stuff, her dialects. It's all super clear. There's no wondering where to go. Again, are very on brand. It's not her trying to be, you know, extremely pretty in a more like traditional way, but it's like it has that nun like kind of the vibe that she portrays like throughout her website. So this is like a really great example. So perhaps right now we can hop over to a website where I did feel there was some disconnect between like the different parts, and with different parts I mean like, you know, the copy on the website, so the text when people land on your homepage, the pictures that you use, the reels, like unless it all makes like sense together, there's just this like slightly out of web experience that we really want to avoid. So, Bonnie, could you hop over to the website of Cory Cable Care? Let me know if people see it because the screen is frozen from my perspective.
Yep, we've got it now. Yeah, if you'll tell me who you're going to before you start saying what you're going to share there, I can get it.
Yeah, there we are.
The second you are ready to go to it. So yeah, I've got her up, and I'll back out now so you can talk about it. Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. So there's a bunch of things going on here that I would like to help her with, and I hope she'll be watching this at some point. Welcome messages are a total waste of prime real estate on your website. So instead of welcome, thank you for visiting, I'm sure if you found a way here, you know, please feel free, all that stuff is basically white noise and something that could be found on any website. So this says this whole like piece of copy, even it's like, you know, I can see your intentions. It's not telling me anything specific about her, and that is a sad. Like I want to see a great log line here. I want to see some on brand like short introduction, something that grabs my attention. Another thing that I noticed on her website is that she has stuff on there. It says here, like, this site was created with Wix.com. It's easy and free. So there's a lot of advertisements from the platform that she used. And it happened with a couple of actors, their websites that I reviewed. And I might be super strict around this, and like I totally get where you're coming from, you know.
So it looks like Merel dropped out for a hot second there. Let's get her back in here. But yes, this is something I teach
that, you know, we don't end up broke and we don't invest before we're really ready to invest, but showing that you're using like a free platform. And I'm just bringing this up because like it happened, like there were a bunch from like the people that wanted their websites reviewed. It shows agents that you don't want to put out money for like your marketing efforts. And so what does that say about you? Either you don't have any money, and if you don't have any money, that might mean that you're not working as much. So here you really want to be careful, and beautiful web design doesn't have to be expensive. Like there is like platforms you can use, like, oh my gosh, like there's so many where you have like drag and drop themes and it looks really, really gorgeous, and perhaps you pay a small fee per month and it's so worth it. Please people, like, you know, you are worth that. So other things I saw on her website that you can learn from is always ask yourself why you're doing something. So why are you using a specific color? And for example, this background, which is quite dominant, I was just wondering, like, why did you choose that? And is that on brand? And because I couldn't really figure it out why it was on brand or wouldn't be, or I think it isn't. And then it's just, again, like you're creating like this white noise with stuff that really doesn't make a lot of sense. And that's what we want to avoid, because everything has to make sense together. All right, so just hopping back to my notes. Yeah, so because she spent so much time with the welcome messages and stuff, I didn't know that she was a singer as well as an actor until I read the reviews, and that is too late. Like people tend to just read kind of like snippets of your copy, so you just want to keep that in mind. So don't leave the good stuff to like the bottom of the third paragraph. Like people might not ever get to read it. So the important stuff, like what do you do? Like, who are you? You want to put in, like, you know, want to make use of like the headlines, the beginnings of paragraphs, kind of create, like, I say that, like scannable text, so that people can kind of read in headline here, and then this pops out, and then, you know, that there's kind of like a path created on the web page that they can go through and still get like the most important information. And once they have gotten like kind of that overall view, like, okay, this is what it is. Am I interested? Yes. Okay, now I'm gonna read like further into the paragraphs, or even click to other websites or other pages, sorry. And that brings me to another point is, and Bonnie, perhaps you have a different opinion, but I found that the websites that had the reels on the homepage were very attractive to me. Like, if I were an agent, that would make things so simple, like just directly being able to see, because that is what they're coming for, right?
Yeah. I'm a fan of having a lot of one sort of layout for it, that I don't have to go hunting for types of things that I, as a buyer, am going to be looking for. Because when we run things through that lens of, I'm a buyer, I'm visiting your website, what are you trying to sell me? Well, if I'm a producer, if I'm a casting director, you're trying to sell me that you're going to solve a problem I have in casting right now. That there's a role that needs to be filled and you're going to be the right person for the role. If you're an agent or a manager, you are trying to show me that you are the type of person they could sell to casting and to producers and directors, so that you are someone whose information is very readily available and easy to consume through that lens of solving a problem. Because a lot of actors will say, well, I don't want to constrict down to a specific brand message because I don't want to limit the ways they may see me. And the problem with that is then actors come across as a blank slate. And I've read thousands and thousands of breakdowns over the years and put out probably 100 or more breakdowns in my career in casting. And I have never once described a character as a blank slate. Hey, actor, whatever you are, I want you to just come ready for us to mold the clay. We really are looking for very specific solutions. And so, I think that probably is one of the biggies, and having that reel available right up top is another part of solving that problem, because it shows me just right from jump the footage and the acting and gets that information consumed as quickly as possible.
Yeah, it's being marketable, basically. And which brings me to another point. So I know, we were initially just going to talk about Poppy, but I look at things a little bit more holistically. So what I saw a lot is that, especially the women, they tend to put a headshot on their website or more that are very beautiful, which of course is like one attribute, but is it the most interesting one about that person? Probably not. And I'm wondering with a lot of these websites if it's actually doing these women justice. So for example, to stick with the example of Cory's website, she has a beautiful headshot on her homepage, and then I looked at her reels and discovered that she's this really, she has this comic talent, and she's really kind of quirky. And I was just wondering, why not create this picture or have this imagery of the shoveled hair and a big pair of purple glasses that are kind of sitting crooked on your nose, and kind of something that kind of shows how she is when she's acting. And I know she's also doing drama, but that part of her acting was just so amazing, and it really spoke to me. And this is obviously she's a gorgeous woman, but there's a lot of us out there, and nowadays with a little bit of Photoshop and a good photographer, I would say most of us can come across as a beautiful woman. But Bonnie, tell us, is that really what the industry is looking for? I know there's this whole story of you need to be pretty in order to be cast, but is that really true, or are agents and casting directors, etc., really looking for those specific colors? I don't know if you can hear me. We'll just leave that out in the open, as a big question. Talk amongst yourselves.
I can hear you just okay, Merel.
So,
back to the driving the dashboard with the change screen sometimes has us a little lag in the tech, but we're great.
We're good. Okay, now I can hear you again. So did you hear my question?
So if you would pose the question again now, I think that might be good, because there were some people saying the audio is kind of dropping out here and there.
Yeah. So there's this whole story about women need to be pretty in order to be cast. So I see on all these websites, the women try to look as beautiful as possible. They obviously go to a good photographer, get their hair done, it all looks amazing, but they don't really choose a specific color. It becomes really, people land on their website and they're probably thinking, well, I've just seen 10 to 20 websites like this. Yeah. So what is your opinion about this?
So what I would say is, what I see happen many times is almost an overcorrection with that, which is, I don't want my website to look like everyone else's, so I'm going to just be different for the sake of being different, rather than running everything through the brand filter. Which is the phrase I like to use for all of this, because if we run it through the brand filter and have that moment of, yes, this actually teaches the buyer this about me. And this is why in self-management for actors, we talk a lot about that brand umbrella and that through line that connects all the roles that you play. And I'm wondering, Merel, if you could tell me whose site, because I know you looked at a bunch that were nominated for this process today. If you could tell me a website that does a good job with those colors and that connective tissue sort of that you were
sure. So there were two. So one that's really good is Russell Erick's website.
Let me see if I can
have a look at that one.
I've got Russell in the queue. I will bring him on and I will drop out so you can share that one. Yep, out I go.
Just scrolling down to my own notes here. Yeah, so one of the really great things that he does, if you scroll, like obviously this is a really great pick. Like he has, like this face has character. Very sleek. So just scroll down a little bit. There we go. So here we go into like the text. And the beauty of this is that this is like a copy roll. This is like one-on-one stuff, like for sure. You want to show rather than tell. So he uses elements where he says something about himself or gives us like a really quirky detail, and it gives us a picture like in our heads. It's like using mind pictures, we call it in copywriting. So basically what that is like, imagine snapping a picture and explaining it to a blind person. Like, what do you see? That's what good copy does. So for example, here he says, I know far too many Britney Spears dance routines. So right away, that person, that head you just saw up at the page, like dancing, doing Britney Spears stuff. Well, that gives us like a solid like image of like who this person is. It's brand on. So here, like he has run everything through that brand filter. What I also love about this website, like he did a fantastic job making it so easy for the people in hiring positions to find out everything they need to know, to have it in the right format. So here's his resume. You can click download right away. Perhaps you can scroll down a little bit. There we go. So all the information people need. If you go down a little further, I'm just going to do it on my own here. So it's resume. Yeah, and then he ends with a call to action. That's what we call that. So it's like a little line of text or a button that says, do this now. So he gives a fantastic like brand on experience. This is something you want to do on every page of your website. So even, you know, let's say your about or your bio, link them back to a place you need them to go in order to take action. Or say, contact me here. You know, never leave any like dead ends at the bottom of your pages. What else does he do really well? So let me just scroll through here. Yeah, all his reels are on the home page. It's super easy to access. Again, like the contact me. His pictures are all brand on. And perhaps Bonnie, you can tell us a little bit more about what I mean when I say the pictures are brand on. So you can just talk a little bit more about what like this brand on thing means.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, whenever we talk about, you know, things being so on brand, and that idea of running the things through the brand filter, the idea behind it is I need to feel like I've come into your home when I'm visiting your website. And so just as you would decorate your home a certain way and it would have a certain scent to it and there would be certain colors and textures and just this vibe to it, your website should have that sort of feeling of being in the room with you and being at your place. And if it doesn't feel like you do, it is doing you a disservice. And this is where we get a lot of discord with this, where someone may be a very formal brand and then they have an all too casual website, or vice versa. You know, I'm someone who's incredibly folksy. I'm lo-fi. My website is very straightforward. There's not a lot of flash to it. It's not trying to be sophisticated. It's meant to be just, here's the information and a lot of it. And when I go live on broadcasts like this, it's always just me hanging out on my sofa with my hair up on top of my head. You know, I don't go to a studio and get all camera ready and stuff like that, because part of my brand is very accessible and very relatable. And so it would be weird if I had a website where the photos of me were in, you know, a string of pearls and a more formal made up photo, or if my bio were incredibly tersely written, or, you know, had a lot of formal third person stoic phrases. And I think that a lot of people get in their head about how bios are meant to be written, you know, what post share about themselves, and they put on this formal outfit before they sit down to the keyboard, instead of realizing the whole thing needs to just feel like we're hanging out with you.
Yeah, and I think, you know, it's great that you said like visualizing some kind of like an architectural space. Like, I think that's a wonderful exercise for any of you guys to get into the mood for you to write stuff that's really authentic and that makes sense, and that gives us that like really brand on experience, is to think to yourself, you know, like, am I in a church? Or am I church? Like, am I in a church? Probably. Or is it like, are we meeting in some kind of like local ethnic cafe, having, you know, a heart to heart? Like, really kind of like, before you do any writing, first like visualize, like, where are you and with whom? Yeah. And that's a really wonderful starting place, and Russell did such a great job at that. Russell, little tiny note about how you can even be more brand on is when you use, if you were to use like one name in all the places that you hang. So
yeah, this is where Russell's website is russelleric.com, and then it's Russell Eric Coleman, and then there are places I've seen just Russell Coleman, and then there's Russell Ruffles Coleman, and there's even in the review it says specifically Ruffles, blah blah blah. For people who are imagine Russell, that this is their first visit to your site, they may find it a little confusing to know exactly what it is we're working with here in terms of your brand identity, your name, and your name is your biggest brand creator there, really. And so if we're going to go by multiple variations, it's sort of like, am I Bon or am I Bonnie? And is there something that's more formal? If I ask you to call me Bonnie, do we have a different relationship than if I say call me Bon? These are the kinds of things that if you would just run a little comb through those, I think those tiny little tweaks would make your site A+. But already, I agree with Merel that it was one of the stronger ones that was submitted for today, and thank you for submitting it.
Yeah. So I would love to hop over to Nikki Kazuri is her name, I think.
Yeah, Nikki Kasari is how I would say it. So let's, and I'm sure she'll correct us if that's not accurate, but let me get her in the queue here. Lovely Nikki. Let me pull you up on the screen. This just takes a few little clicks here. Thank you guys for enjoying this experiment of new technology with us. And Merel, thank you so much for your expert eye on all of this.
This sweat mustache from like, are we still on?
Yeah, we're doing great. There have been a couple of times that there's been a little glitch that we've just jumped right back in on. So I think overall, you know, for this new tech, we're doing really well. I'm going to drop out so that we have the bigger screen on Nikki's site now, but we're ready to roll through it with your notes.
Perfect. So my first impression here, so what's above the fold, like we call this above the fold, so anything you see without having to scroll is beautiful. Like perhaps she could have added like her log line or what we call a tagline underneath Nikki Kasari to give us right away, like from a word perspective, like a more branded experience. But overall, this looks really sleek, really clean, beautiful headshot, and then right away, the reels. So no having to look for it and dig around. It's just like, here it is. Really, really good. But then when I scroll down, just go back to see that you're scrolling down, Bonnie. There you go. Like, I was like, what is this? Like, where are we? Like, oh my gosh, like so many different elements. Like, this is a little bit of a nightmare from like a visitor's perspective. Like, I know it says upcoming projects here and current projects, but like the visual is really messy. So this is something you want to always try and avoid. It's like keep things really simple and don't overwhelm people with information that might not be relevant.
Yeah. Okay. That is what happens when we drop out. Let's try bringing you back. Ah.
A second, so I don't know exactly what people can see, but I'll just scroll down myself here. Yeah, and then she ends with a line that says actress, singer, dancer, host. Now this is not a log line or something that gives any like kind of brand experience. It basically tells people what she does. And quite frankly, if I were an agent and I'm looking for somebody to star in like a movie, like acting wise, I wouldn't necessarily want to know that they're a host as well or a dancer. So this is where you have to get really clever and understand how and when you wield your multi-passionate nature. So one thing she could do, Nikki, if you're listening, is creating 2 or 3 different we call doors. So a great example of that is the website of a colleague of mine. Copyright, she's fantastic. I love her. Her name is Laura Belgray, and her website is Talking Shrimp. And you'll love it. Like, it's an awesome place to be. But when you land on her homepage, you'll see that she writes for entrepreneurs and she writes for television. And the people that want to write like promos and stuff like that, the television people, they will go click on that button and be brought to a complete page that talks about just that. So it won't mention entrepreneurs, it won't mention sales pages, it won't mention, you know, like web copy. It will talk only about the television work she's done and why she's awesome. Now, if you click on the other door, you'll be brought to the pages that are relevant for entrepreneurs who want to have their website written, or they need a sales page or Facebook ads or whatever, and they don't see or read anything of that stuff that's not relevant to them, like any other TV stuff. So she could do the same thing, or any of you guys who are listening and who have like this really kind of multi-passionate side, like I do many things, I'm a violinist and I'm an actor, and just create those two doors and then create like the information that's relevant for that specific thing, instead of trying to combine them. Because as soon as you combine things, it usually, as a rule of thumb, weakens the overall, like I say that, solidity of like what you're trying to present, or what you really want to get booked to do or hired to do.
It creates this idea that
remove any confusion. So help for the multi. I know, this is like, you know, we're all this way, right? Like, we're artists, so yeah, of course we want to be everything and explore everything. But if you want to really get a foot in the door, I think it's super important to choose and to remove any confusion. Talking of which, somebody who did a really great job with, and I don't know if his website is in the queue, is Ryan J. Burwell. I don't know if Bonnie can pull up his website right now. Bonnie's
let me get over to you.
Just have a look at that website.
If you can or not, but that one crew of that hyphen.
You can just like Google it yourself, guys. www.ryan.
You're able to go through and actually think of it as they're going to be different buyers for some of those pieces of your hyphenate life. And if that means that someone who casts hosts is going to be different than someone who's going to cast you as an actor, and someone who casts singers is going to be different than someone who casts stunt performers. The idea of having, yes, that brand umbrella served, but then a different place for people to go for those specialties is a really fantastic way to make sure that you're not trying to have your site be everything to everyone. Because when you do things like that, you do run the risk of feeling almost desperate in that I don't care how I make it, I just have to make it.
One color and one side of your work and feature that and build on that. And I gave the example of the website that Ryan J. Burwell submitted, who says like you can book me to be a you know, like a military type, or like the psycho. And obviously, like everything aligns with that. So his pictures are kind of like intense and dark. His reels just show those kinds of roles. And he just states very clearly, like, this is what I do. That's really amazing. Now, if you are a super multi-passionate and like, oh man, I love this website. So well done, Brian. Yay! I was like, yay! Finally, someone who just comes out as like one clear thing. Like, okay, let's do this. Let's engage you to do this like psycho role. But if you're not like Brian, if like this totally like terrifies you from like a creative perspective, then the door solution is a great way to go. Good. So let me see if there were any other. Perhaps we should just switch over to Q&A, Bonnie. What do you think?
Yeah, if you're game for that, Merel, I think that's a great idea. We have, quite a few people here live with us that may have some questions that want to pop those in for us. But I love that some of the general themes that we're seeing here is, when you run things through that lens of the eyes of the buyer, it helps a great deal.
It's freezing. It actually is freezing where I am. I'm in rural Canada. It's really cold here. You're probably like walking around in your flip-flops in LA. enjoying the sun. And I'm freezing my butt off in Canada.
Oh no!
I have no idea where Bonnie went, but we'll just
I'm here.
continue. Perhaps we'll come up with some other examples. Let me have a look at my notes. Bonnie, if you're there.
I am, but I'm going to pull you out and then back on and see if that fixes the issue that it seems to have. Let's see.
Oh, just wait and see. Okay, so I'll just hop over to my notes, see what else good stuff I can.
You want to go to Q&A, but
yeah. So let's talk about modesty. There was one example, Katrina Morris. Now you won't see her website, but you can just like Google her. She talked in her notes that she sent us that she has like a little bit like trouble bragging or being really confident. But here's the thing, you know, this is true like in any area of your life, any area of business, like whether it's acting or being an entrepreneur. Like nobody really wants to work with people that are insecure. Those are usually not the most like effective people to work with, quite frankly, because they need to be told how good they are, and nobody has time for that. So you can do yourself a huge favor, and if you are like, you know, with every sentence that you write, like, oh my God, like I can say that about myself, and just so totally bragging. You know, just realize that when you're writing, nobody's seeing it just yet. It's just for you. So why don't you create like this super braggy version first, like anything you would say if you didn't care about what other people are thinking, you know, or whether you're braggy or not. And then later on, you can always go back and kind of edit it a little bit. Bonnie, your audio is very clear. Merel Kriegsman says I'm not so clear. Can do anything about that. We'll just have to hope for this. So yeah, you know, create first, like, just like do up a version that's like super braggy and like ballsy and confident, and then later go back and edit perhaps one or two things out if even necessary. Because we're all raised, you know, like don't toot your own horn and be modest and all that stuff, but that's not serving you, obviously. But it's also not serving the people that would perhaps love to work with you if they actually knew how awesome you were. And the only thing you're going to know is by reading your website copy and seeing your reels. So there you have it, my opinion about modesty. What else was I going to say about that?
Since I saw that Merel could see Tommy's comment, yeah. She can see my comment where I said
try and be modest,
but I think she can't.
And perhaps because of that, you know, put like
this
really important stuff. We're back. Like, did people hear me or?
Yeah, that's what I'm there. I'm wondering if you can hear me, because I was saying it is a tech experiment, so we're coming and going with this.
Oh man. Yeah.
Yeah.
I couldn't hear you. I couldn't hear you at all. Like I just like went la 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 la. So
no, it was great, and everything you said is gold. I really appreciate it, and I know that people are getting a lot out of that whole idea of confidence and the difference between, you know, bravado and modesty with the confidence and everything. So I know that's super, super helpful. I know that one of the questions someone had was about taking a more corporate background and then transitioning into an artist's life and feeling that it's challenging to kind of rewire that part of the brain that wants to still deliver everything from a really corporate point of view. What sort of tips would you give people just to start kind of leaning into the more artistic realm without being, again, overcorrecting, without going way too far out there?
I find, like, as I become more visible myself online, what I find is that it's the best if you just remain authentic. Like, don't make stuff up in order to impress people, because it's gonna bite you in the ass eventually. Because then suddenly, like you present yourself in different places, different platforms. You know, you mentioned those 3 really important ones, and then suddenly, you know, people will see your website and then hop to one of those platforms and see something completely different, and they're gone. Like, there cannot be like these disconnects. So the safest place, the most secure place is with yourself. That's what I would say. Like, that's really important. On the corporate note, I worked with a bunch of clients last year who were transitioning from corporate to becoming consultants. So not as creative and out there as, you know, we all are, but definitely in that direction. She showed the web copy I created to her mother, who said, now I finally, after 30 years, understand what you do. Her mother had never understood what she does because she was using like this technical language. So if you're transitioning from corporate, I think the biggest difference, or the biggest layer you want to shed, is the technical language, the being formal. That can all be left at home. Like, it's totally okay to let that go. And frankly, the corporate world is hiring people like me to make their brands and their companies more approachable, more likable. So this is a very, like, even though it might feel terrifying, like, this is a safe route to go. Any other questions?
Yeah. I'm looking to see if any questions have come through. There were a few that y'all are answering for one another, which I really appreciate. Yes, thank you so much for being cool with the lag in tech. We know, trying out new stuff, and we so appreciate you going on this adventure with us. Yes, the doors. Everybody, Merel really liked the idea of the different doors and the example of talking shrimp. Thank you so much for bringing that one up in particular. Super, super helpful. Let's see, Sean is asking a question. Here we go. Is it okay to start with the website very basic, just what's necessary, publish it, and then add on as needed? In other words, present your strength and then present other muscles as they develop. So basically the question is there ever a time that it's too early to have a website or a web presence?
Well, I think we can answer this question kind of together with your insights, you know, specifically in this industry. But I would say, like, for example, when I work with web designers and they say, I'd rather not work with people unless they have X, Y, and Z. And copywriting is one of them. So there are specific elements that you need to have in order to be taken seriously and in order to really give agents the information they need to consider you. So just perhaps we can list those things. You know, the reels are necessary. I would say the resume that they can download. Like, if you can find a theme where you can just like create this link where people can download it, like make it super easy. It can be really simple. Like have those core elements there, and then from like a copy perspective, if you're writing your own copy, the only thing you're investing is your time and imagination. You know, you can always create a beautiful log line. You can always create like that introduction section that is interesting, that creates those word pictures that we talked about. In fact, I totally wasn't like, people couldn't hear me at that point, but that was a very good one.
The word pictures we definitely got the way we were going through Russell's site. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll just like repeat that. So basically, very simple. Like, snap a picture, explain it to a blind person. What would you say? Like, that's a word picture. Something that people can see in their minds, like stuff like that. Show rather than tell. And yeah, so those things are free for you guys. You just have to invest in time and imagination. So Bonnie. So the reels, the CV that people can download, beautiful logline and introduction, no welcome messages, no wasting of prime real estate people.
Yeah.
Anything else, Bonnie? If you feel
One of the biggest wastes of real estate that I see is a click to enter. And this isn't as common now that Flash is dying off, but especially for Flash websites, there was a landing page and then a click to enter, because then it would take you into this Flash experience, which thank God that's over. But it's still people who will do a click to enter as if we want to confirm that we want to be there. And just assume if they've landed on that front page, they're ready for the experience, and start giving it to them. A common mistake I see is social networking buttons right across the top and large, as if to invite people to go down the rabbit hole of all the other places rather than stay on that page. And while you may have an incredible social media presence, for most actors, I'm clicking through and finding, that they got like 400 sad little Twitter followers, or 600 Instagram followers, and I'm like, you don't have a massive social media presence to the point that you should take me away from your website to go see that. And so I would be careful with the social media buttons, and even the buttons for things like IMDb and Actors Access and casting networks, in that make sure that they open in a new tab as you coded them, so that we still keep open your website where you control the branding and you offer us that lens through which to see you in terms of your brand, your footage, how to contact you. You get to tell us who your manager is, rather than us clicking through and trying to figure out how to connect with you if maybe IMDb isn't as updated, that sort of thing. So I would also pay attention to those little details in addition to everything else that we've been doing.
Yeah, it's like really simple. Simply put, like when you send them to one of those platforms, whether it's social, for example, let's say Facebook, they suddenly see that they have 5 messages. If people are anything like me, they're like, oh, messages! Let's quickly look who wants to be in touch with me. So you lose them there, and then when you send them some kind of platform where actors market themselves, you're basically saying, thank you for standing with me in this corner. Let's walk to the middle of like the conference room where all the other people are, so that you can lose interest in me and choose the girl next, standing next to me.
It's true. When someone sends me to their YouTube channel, it's like I may watch their footage at YouTube, but then even if they've turned off the thing that auto suggests the next thing that I should watch, there's the sidebar at YouTube begging me to go to 20 other places immediately, and it's very smart about what it will send me to, and it will be your doppelganger, and that's not to your advantage. It'll be someone else's more popular demo reel that is trying to draw my focus. And so you really want to keep those eyes on you. Like, you brought me into your house, you want me to stay in your house, not go door to door in your neighborhood.
Absolutely. And if you do have, let's say, 80,000 Twitter followers or whatever, and you're like, obviously the world loves you, then just like create like a logo on your website that mentions it, like, this is how, this is really awesome, this is really awesome, and this is really awesome. But don't make it like a clickable that sends people away ever. Like, even if you have 80,000, like, and who has that, like, I don't know, Jennifer Aniston. Like, just don't send them away from your website, bottom line. Yeah.
And one more thing on the question Sean asked about, is it ever, basically too early to have a web presence? I would say if you can grab your domain name, do that immediately, even if all you do at first is redirect that URL to your Actors Access profile or your IMDb page. Like, I got BonnieGillespie.com 20 years ago. It was 1997, and I grabbed BonnieGillespie.com because I was like, I should have that probably. And for years, it just pointed to my IMDb page because I didn't have a website. And so it's quite all right to have just the eyes go straight to that one pager or just your headshot with a coming soon. But I'm going to encourage you to really invest some of your energy into at least that log line, that contact information, so that buyers can say, oh, I've seen his reel. I know what we're going to get. And they can start really feeling that connection with you beyond just the picture, which is your logo.
And perhaps, as we wrap this up, perhaps we want to talk a little bit about some really good log lines. We obviously saw some on Russell's website. So his log line, his like really branded line says, puppy dog with a side of snarl. Like right away, like that's a word picture. That's something we can imagine. Katherine also had a great one. The new age nun ... with the abbot.
Mm-hmm.
Like really funny, but it like shows us a picture right away. Like that's really great stuff. And the beauty of it all is that you can create copy yourself. Like you just need to, as I said, like your imagination is the limit.
Yep.
And really like think this through. Like who do you want to be? Ideally, what do you want people to know about you? And then perhaps start, coming up with like a few keywords. Or I don't know if you have a specific method, Bonnie, to creating a log line, but that's where I would start.
Yeah, we do, and it can get pretty intense. So beyond the scope of what we're covering today, for sure, because log lines are another crazy part of it. But it does start with that nugget of the "so tell me about yourself" prompt, which is one of the reasons that we specifically asked for that in these nominations today. Was what is it that you answer when someone says, "So tell me about yourself"? And that can be a lot of times the starting point for developing a fantastic log line. Merel, what I want to make sure that we do here is if you could tell everyone how they can find more information about you, or perhaps work with you, get on your mailing list, because I think you've been so generous with your time and helping these folks out with some really great examples. And again, everyone, thank you so much for nominating yourselves to be included in our Facebook Live today. But I want to make sure that people know how to find you, Merel, and work with you further if that is something that will line up for them coming down the road.
Yeah, so on my web copy is totally geared toward female entrepreneurs, so you'll just have to read kind of through that. A great way to start working with me is to look me for a 90-minute intensive, which is called the Copy Quick Fix, where we would go and kind of create like the layout for your website, where you want people to go, talk about this log line, for example, or create a really strong introduction for your homepage. My specialty is really like monetizing your website. And in the case of you guys, that means getting work. So that's what we would look at. You can simply pop your name and email address in the little opt-in box that I have on my homepage, and then you get a freebie that might be or not be relevant, because I focus on entrepreneurs. But then you'll be on my mailing list, and then you get beautiful emails, and you can glean at those for inspiration on how to write word pictures for sure.
Well, and I'm just going to make a comment about your emails and the value of being on your email list, Merel, because I got something from you in my inbox today, and I loved it because it was about language that we may use and not even realize the effect that it has. And as someone who has written for a living, of course, I'm passionate about really paying attention to the nuances of language and the words. So I was totally fired up by today's email, and I think it's incredibly relevant to all artists and creatives, as well as anyone who has to communicate as a part of their job, which is all of us.
Totally. Yeah, I'm really, like, I love stuff like that. I like you. I just love words, and I love how it can, send our perceived value like soaring using specific language, and also like how we sometimes totally unaware kind of like bring it down by using words like, sorry, too much, or just sending you this little, dot, dot, dot. I just like, that's so fascinating. And, like, just FYI, you guys, I am a copywriter right now, but I worked I was this stage for 7 years. I was a concert soprano. You guys can YouTube me and actually see me singing from Vatican City, where I won a prize.
I'm going to tell you, Merel, that's when I knew I had the biggest girl crush on you, because, you had said that obviously you'd been in the industry, and then when you said, well, you might want to watch this. And so y'all, seriously, look up Merel's video on YouTube of singing at the Vatican. You will cry. It is absolutely beautiful. And so I was like, of course you understand the craft and the discipline involved and the passion of what we infuse into our art. And it just, it's so beautiful. I hope everyone will take the time to check that out. My team is actually putting notes here in the comments with a link to your website, Merel, so people will be able to hop on the mailing list just by grabbing that link in the comments here if they didn't catch the information as we talk through it. So make sure you check the comments.
Cool. Yeah, so much fun. Like, wow, this was a big tech experiment. I hope I wasn't like not audible or visible for too long, but this was great. Thank you so much for having me.
Merel, thank you so much. I really do appreciate you, and I hope we will collaborate again. Y'all, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. And as we talked about from the beginning with this, we were trying some new technology. We were checking out doing some pretty complex stuff, sharing a screen, sharing the two of us on this talk show format, the overlays. I mean, there's a lot, and I know technology is magic, but there's sometimes a little learning curve, and there's just some things that we are pushing to the limits of what is actually possible simultaneously. So I so appreciate y'all for bearing with us through this. But I think for the most part, this was pretty spectacular. And even though there were a couple little tech dropouts here and there, I hope you got massive value from this as always. I trust you will continue to follow up with us in the comments. And again, those of you watching in replay at YouTube, come on over to the Bonnie Gillespie Facebook page, where we will continue having conversations, and we will throw the links into the comment section as well, so that you can, for yourself, visit these websites that we did a little walkthrough on. And of course, check back at those websites to see what kinds of changes people may have made after being inspired by the feedback that was shared here today. As always, you beautiful people, thank you so much for hopping in on a Facebook Live and sharing this time with us. Please make sure that you are keeping an eye out, because it's November. That means we're gearing up for Getting Gear for the New Year, which is our free 11-day program in December that takes you through, one day at a time, all the different tools that you can get up to their peak state, so that for the new year, you are ready to jam and just kill it with all the amazingness that you throw into your tools, so that they really feel their level best. That's hugely important, because if you think, no, I'm good, everything's working just great, then that's awesome. If you got the IMDb of your dreams right now, you're good to go. I hope you will be a role model for us as we go through this program in December. But it's one of my favorite things that we do, because it's totally free. Come join us in the Self-Management for Actors Facebook group, where we can jam with you about each of these elements. And of course, one of the things that we do is tackle your web presence, but we also work on your headshots, your brand, your cover letter, your bio, your resume, your footage. Oh my gosh, there's so much, and it's totally free. Hope you'll join us. As always, you beautiful people, thank you very much for sharing this time with me. I will see you in the comments and over at the Self-Management for Actors Facebook group. Till next time, stay ninja. Mwah.
Bye-bye.